It's Tacky Talk time. State Representative Tacky Chan of Quincy is joining us this week before Christmas. Tacky, how are you?
Hey Joe, it's good to see you. As those of you that are watching YouTube on or QATV will notice that I am in the office the week before Christmas.
Yes, but you have your Christmas tie on, one of them, so that's good.
Well, I have a fun tie, the Mickey Mouse tie today, so
Oh, I thought it was Christmas. Okay.
it's officially festive.
You had a Christmas tie on at the city council meeting the other night.
I did. I came to the council meeting to very quickly. I don't, as you all know, I don't like to waste people's time, particularly when the council has much important business to go through. Just to wish Councilor Mahoney, Councilor Phelan, and Councilor Adronico best wishes and thank them for their service in the council, as well as thank for the council for their hard work this past session. We brought citations for them from the House and the Senate, which we gave the council president DeBona to pass out. I didn't see any reason I would have to read them there because every single one of those councilors have heard us read the citations more than a few times. But it's very important for the state delegation to recognize the hard work that the municipal officials do, and regardless of the reasons of why they are off the council, they served. And I always remind folks, being an elected official at any level of government, and even people who run for office at any level of government, it was probably a very small group of people who were chosen by the public to serve them. So, I think despite what our opinions are about people, it's very important to recognize the service, and the delegation, thanks them for their work.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice. And, uniquely, I don't know if this is unique to Quincy or not, but the entire delegation lives in Quincy.
That is correct. It's people forget that the speaker, is down at Quincy Point. I'm out of Wallaston. Senator Keenan's out of Marymount, and Bruce is out of basically Atlantic. Actually, not quite clear sometimes where those lines are in those neighborhoods up in North Quincy.
I know.
I had debates about this with folks. Trust me. But the entire Quincy delegation is inside the city of Quincy. You don't get that everywhere. For example, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember some folks that may not be that. I think one example is John Lawn, where Newton is the base of that district. I think he has like one precinct. You had Brian Joyce when he was a senator. I mean, he had precincts in Boston, coming out of the Milton area. I'm trying to think of some reps that have crossed lines of Boston. I think Jay Livingston used to. I don't think he does anymore. Jay Livingston used to have like slivers of Cambridge and Boston. Yeah. I think that's not the case. I think they took the Cambridge parts out.
Yeah.
They consolidated a lot of the Boston reps inside Boston proper. But yeah, generally, if you're the bigger community, you should have the electeds from your community, unless there's like a sliver situation where like one precinct could be a city.
Right. Right. Yeah, like Quincy, it was Marty Walsh, right, for a 3-3.
Oh yeah, that's right. For a blink of an eye, Marty Walsh was our fourth rep, and then became Delahunt, and I'm sorry, Dan Hunt.
Right.
Hunt, and then last redistricting, we threw him back over the river.
That's right. So we got it all back in the city again.
Yeah, it was kind of strange. I was not the junior member for half a second.
How did that feel, Tacky?
I'm still the junior member no matter what.
You're just a kid, just a child.
Yeah, only 7 terms. Still the kid in this gig.
Yeah. Stable Mabel.
There's a lot of truth to that. Although it was actually interesting trivia. I was asked the other day about my elected service, and I've only served in this position as an elected official. But actually one of the few that was never elected at the municipal level. Bruce Ayers was elected as a Ward 6 councilor prior to being a state rep. Speaker Ron Mariano was a school committee man for elected state rep. John Keenan was obviously on the city council.
Yep.
Michael Bellotti never served in the council. Mike Morrissey never served in the council. Obviously, I have not served in the council. Neither did Lou Sarasoli. But Arthur Tobin Sr. was on the council. Arthur Tobin Jr. was not.
Right.
Steve Tobin, where actually he doesn't like
right. Yep.
Arthur Tobin, but Steve Tobin was never on the council or school committee. So it's actually pretty interesting when someone asks me that question about did I serve local office, and turns out actually in the current delegation I'm the one that has it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but since you brought it up, that's true. Absolutely true. Yeah. So you're setting history straight, Tacky.
Well, it's interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Not surprising, a lot of folks up here were once members of the Board of Selectmen,
Sure.
a
Yep.
lot more than city councilors, just
Yep.
nature of elections. And you can always tell the difference between different folks that are newly elected, whether or not to serve the municipal government.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they have a different sense of how things work. So even, I mean, even today, the lieutenant governor was a mayor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, if you look down the line, I mean, it's been a while since we had an elected official be a governor. And well, we have had lieutenant governors serve before, but obviously Maura Healy served as Attorney General. Kim Driscoll is Mayor of Salem. But you look at Charlie Baker served as a member of Board of Selectmen in Swampscott, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
People forget he was a Board of Selectmen member, but
Mhm.
Patrick has never served an elected office. And Mitt Romney, was Mitt like a town meeting member or something?
I don't know, honestly. Maybe.
Maybe I'm trying to
It,
remember that one.
yeah, maybe in Wellesley. I think he lived in Wellesley. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think he may have been like a town meeting member for half a breath. But I mean, Deval Patrick didn't. But you also had people like Jane Swift and Paul Salucci, but Bill Weld didn't. So I always find it Vab would have some level of experience going into our level of government, because you learn kind of basic politics at the street level, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So
A
let's talk
little
about the
unusual.
what's that?
I'm a little unusual because of the nature of how I got. I was already part of the building before I got elected. So
You always had to be different, Tacky.
don't always follow the rules exactly.
What's going to be happening at the State House after the new year? Let's talk about the pomp and circumstance.
Well, the Constitution actually has us on calendar years in the session. Our rules dictate how we operate. So
Yeah,
there's always a little discrepancy of newer members trying to understand how come we have a closed open session on the first Wednesday after the first Monday of every calendar year. It isn't a swearing in day. It's a requirement to declare that the legislature is open for the new session as well as the executive branch in the new calendar year. So expectation is that the first Wednesday in January, I believe is January 3rd.
Mhm.
And we just need enough folks in the building in an informal session to do the required walk between the branches through special committees to declare the opening, and we're ready to work for this calendar year. So
Gotcha.
again, it's mostly pop and circumstance, very uneventful. Not the same as a swearing in day, which is much more fun actually, because you got the families, the newly elected, a lot of bright-eyed, newly elected and their families, all celebrating, and that in many ways is really for them.
Sure. Yeah.
For the 2 years, it's more not just necessarily ceremony opening and electing of a speaker or senate president, but it's really celebrating, the new colleagues that have come into the building.
Yeah. Yeah. Neat. Well, we had that last year, right? You already had that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, one class, the 21 class, were elected during COVID. So they
That's
had,
right. Yeah.
yeah, they got to come to the chamber to get sworn in, but they couldn't bring all their family.
Thankfully, those days are hopefully behind us.
I hope so too. It's very sad because it's, you only get one opportunity to, honestly, you only get one opportunity to
To
come.
do it the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one opportunity. It's sad. I'm very sad that their family members and their friends couldn't be part of the state of celebration of their election.
Yeah. Well, we're recording this a couple of days after the big storm. Tacky, how did you make out?
Oh, I was up at 6 in the morning from the wind and tried to go back to bed, and it was a 6 or 5:30. It was very early. Next thing you know, I had a loud thump on my side of the house and the roof, and clearly something fell onto it. So I had to wait the daylight, grab my binoculars in the rain, and try to see if there was any roof damage. Thankfully not, but I did find this relatively good sized branch that did fall up and bounce off. But it's very disconcerting when you hear that. I'm sure people who've had this happen know, and from my knowledge, there was quite a bit of storm damage, but I didn't hear anything catastrophic.
No, there wasn't, thankfully, in Quincy. Even some cars got struck as they were moving, but nobody got hurt, thankfully. So all in all, not bad, not bad at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's not good, but it wasn't catastrophic. And
Yeah.
Again, we
And it
got,
seems like, does the state kind of, when, with an incident like this, kind of monitor the utility companies and how they're doing with restoration? How does that regulation work?
well, that's Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency.
Okay.
MEMA works in coordination of all the utility companies regarding storm cleanup. As part of their filings every year, they have to have storm preparedness with Department of Utilities, which the AG's office participates. I did these as you can hear. Town participates in the conversation. Generally, there's really very little question. It's mostly rinse and repeat.
Mm.
What will happen is that obviously there's a bill associated with all these emergency hires of contractors as far as Canada, as well as pole replacement and things that are out of state. It'll be wrapped into the next rate request from the utilities, and just coincidentally, National Grid in our case, because we're National Grid territory, is going to be filing the rate request soon. We have a 5-year rate program. So storm damage that gets rolled into it, it's amortized over 10 or 30 years, depending on the size of the bill. So you're going to see the impact on it, probably fractions of a penny.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I just wonder how that works. I figured there would have to be a cost associated with it somehow.
Yeah, it's fronted by the utility company. So utility companies actually front the money. And the ratepayers will reimburse the utility company over the course of perhaps decades, depending on the size of the bill.
Yeah.
No joke. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of percent, on your utility bill per kilowatt hour. Sometimes thousands of percent if it's small. So, you feel it, but it's one of those weird things you feel.
It's minimal, yeah. Is there any requirement on utilities that they have to have some kind of like a resiliency plan to, minimize damage from events like this?
Yeah, maintenance plans can be reviewed as part of the larger rate plan.
Yeah.
They sometimes come in for special capital plans. I mean,
Yep.
I've been in the AG's office for a long time, as you can tell, but that was not uncommon when I was there, that they would come in for capital plan specifically for a rate adjustment. Obviously up because they want, ratepayers have to pay for those capital improvements. And of course, when I was there, one of my jobs with National Grid was actually, on maintenance. It was like, I need to see a maintenance schedule. I need an idea of how old your stuff was. I need to know how your inventory is in the stockyards, and we need to know, are you moving your the maintenance centers around the state? You're going to keep them in the same location, or do you have your contractors on call? Obviously, when we get to like a superstorm Sandy situation that came up the East Coast, I mean, they just wrecked a lot of states at one time. Emergency contractors was very difficult. And the prioritization for emergency contractors is always the same. Doesn't matter what state you're in, is that you serve your state first before you go somewhere else.
Right.
So when you have a multi-state event that affects, let's say, 13 states, emergency contractors always suddenly coming out of like places like, Texas.
Right. The Midwest and
taking like a 3-day drive, perhaps, depending how far you're coming up. And because they don't fly in, they drive their trucks with equipment. And then they bill Massachusetts utilities for their work. And then, this will be part of the larger rate case regarding those costs. It includes like, replacing poles, wires, everything involved. And obviously, they also have to prioritize folks that have emergency medical needs, assisted medical needs at their home. So if you don't have emergency medical equipment, you'll probably likely have a generator, I hope.
Right.
Then utilities need to know. So if you have an emergency medical person at home, you definitely should report that to the utility company to let them know that you have the situation and to prioritize you as part of power restoration, obviously pending the safety of the situation, if the storm's still going on, or there's abundant trees that are down around your area. To try to get to those people first. Like hospitals are priority locations, sensitive government agencies, public safety is priority situation. Healthcare centers priority situation. So utilities do have a pecking order in terms of what a priority power bring up is.
Right, that's the way I typically see them wait. If the individual neighborhood outages come in last, unfortunately, if you have a service down off of one single house or something, it's not going to be a priority.
Yeah, and the computer equipment is pretty good. I mean, it's very good at identification of down outage, but it's not precise in the sense it doesn't know exactly your home. That's why it's still very important for folks to actually call the utility or go online on your phone because they have no power. Your phone. to, reach out through the National Grid app, or its website to report your down area. So they get like a general, like a quadrant type situation. Have a segment, their computer systems, they identify that there's an outage. It's, these isolated outages, but they don't know what line is down exactly.
Right.
So they would have to send a truck down to do a visual inspection to find out where everything is before they even start their work. But, it's up to, customers really to just report this stuff to the utility. And it actually saves them time to say, hey, I got this power line. It's in front of my house at this address.
Yep.
It expedites their inspection. They know exactly where to go. They're not roaming around the neighborhood, hunting for it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't assume somebody else called. Even if they did, so what? You call too.
Absolutely do call. Because they want to hear from you. Dead
Right.
serious. They do want to hear from you. And obviously you see a down wire, don't go near it. Just because you don't see sparks doesn't mean it's not live.
That's right. Yeah, don't assume. Yeah, just assume that they are live no matter what, for sure. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, call for help and let the professionals deal with it.
I know you had a little bit of a discussion regarding the plans for Beth Israel to come to Quincy Center not too long ago. Tacky, can you tell us anything about it?
Yeah, I had a nice chat with the VP of Government Affairs at Beth Israel. And there isn't too much to say, actually. I mean, they're obviously they're very interested in coming to Quincy and have plans to do so, but they also want to make sure they're part of the healthcare network in our area. They want to work with the local health centers and other hospitals in the region. Those who don't know, Milton is a BI hospital, but a very small capacity, and they recognize that. And they know about South Shore Hospital and Kearney Hospital, so they're not here to so-called steal other people's patients, but they want to be part of the integrated network that's out here. And there's a general consensus that radiology in particular, there's plenty of work in the area for it. It's just figuring out how they integrate it into the system. So unfortunately, there isn't a lot of news. A lot of it's still in conversation as they're trying to figure out in conversation with other folks, where the best role is locally. But they do definitely see a need for urgent care, a higher trauma level, as well as radiology, and most likely some other services as they continue the evaluation before they start to build anything at all.
Yeah, does this require state approval before it starts?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I know DPH licensing is involved because of the nature of a lot of things they're looking to do. I don't think it'll be a great hurdle. Obviously, the lion's share, the lion's share will be dealing with local permitting.
Okay.
There's Quincy Center special permitting in terms of what they're allowed to build. But obviously, there's an interest in the city to work with Beth Israel, what they would like to see the visual look like. But there's also a practicality involved. Healthcare is expensive, but the facilities or something they're not just going to build and abandon. They want to make sure it's here, it's going to last.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Stay tuned for that and see what happens. Governor says she's going to ask for another supplemental budget, Tacky, for the sheltering crisis.
Yeah, we're not surprised. The projection for FY25, fiscal year 25, is perhaps as high as $1 billion. This is a huge problem when the budget's projected to be about $56 billion. And part of that's already been committed to debt service for pensions, the MBTA, and school building assistance programs. So it's not really $55 or $56 billion. Is actually short about $4 billion, depending on. But the final math is, particularly school building assistance, which tend to be a bit of a moving target because of the nature of approving new school building assistance for municipalities into it. So school building assistance is always a little bit of a moving target. So we'll see. We'll see what she puts out next. Obviously, we're not getting the supplemental budget until the year turns.
Yeah.
We do have another regular bill paying. The storm removal, for example, is part of going to be a new bill pay next year. If it does snow, and everyone keeps giving me their personal predictions about the winter, obviously snow removal costs and other associated costs for other storm damage that the state will have to pay for will come up as part of a bill paying situation in March and April before we actually pass the main budget. So she's talking about two different things. One is additional supplemental funds, which are already approved in November, which we talked about, was November, no, December. He did go this December we talked about before. And then, whether or not she needs an additional monies, we'll have that conversation probably early part of next year to get that conversation going.
Okay, and I mean, any chance that it could get reimbursed from the feds for that?
Yeah, try to get one of the Fed guys on your show. We'll see what they say.
They'll say, "We'll try."
Well, as you all see in Congress, they still can't get their head together on how to get any kind of spending program done. And it's only about 6 more weeks away to the next potential Fed shutdown and prior to government. It sounds like a long time, but in the legislative world, it really isn't. When you look at their schedule on things like the holiday recess. Holiday recess doesn't mean that they can't come back.
Right,
They're scheduled for it.
right.
As you saw, the Senate had been put on call for a period into the holiday recess. Chuck Schumer had kept the senators on notice that don't go far and ready to come back, as opposed to sticking to your vacation plans.
Yeah,
So you're on vacation somewhere during a holiday recess, and Chuck Schumer in the Senate goes, "Hey, you guys better be available." You're going to have to change your plane ticket ready.
yeah. So I mean, they can't even agree on funding for Ukraine and Israel. Never mind at home.
Well, the hope is that the delegation is able to advocate, maybe $50+ billion for states to address this migrant issue. But it's not uniquely Massachusetts.
Right.
I'm sure other states are pushing their delegations for funding. Again, the governor's office, speaker, the Senate president already had their conversation about their unhappiness regarding the state delegation on why we can't get assistance in something the federal government created. I do notice watching the news. I mean, we get more news coverage on national news about border security and all this stuff on the Texas border. I mean, a lot of people talk about border crisis up here. Well, to me, a border crisis is called Canada, because that's where undocumented come from.
Well, if we all remember 9/11, how did they get in? Through the main border of Canada? Yeah.
Yeah, people tend to forget our largest border is actually Canada, not Mexico. But that's a whole other conversation about how certain media outlets, as well as how people perceive what undocumented looks like. And you'd be surprised. It looks more like some of the listeners here than not. It's not as cut as dry as everyone thinks it is. It really is. It's much more involved. So a lot of listeners, what did they say one time? I was said one time to an individual, about this border crisis issue. And this was like the last border crisis, not the current border crisis. And I go, well, how do you know that person is undocumented? Just because of how they look. And I got the quizzical look on their face. I'm like, well, you do realize, 50 years ago, a lot of undocumented were Irish.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't,
Yes.
they look more like you, so do you assume they're U.S. citizens?
Right. No, it's absolutely true. Yeah.
So, I mean, people have these preconceived notions. I do blame the media for the most part, particularly national media. That,
Yes. Distinguish that, Tacky. The national media.
the national media are reinforcing stereotypes what an undocumented person looks like. An undocumented person is not tied to a race, color, skin, or religion. It's an undocumented person.
Right. Period. End of story. Yeah. Mostly women and children, really.
Well, it is now because of the nature of the crisis. So I keep saying it's a humanitarian crisis. Because it's a situation where people are fleeing from a dangerous situation, right? I mean, you want to talk about disparity of behavior. You look at the Ukraine situation. I mean, the Polish government is run by a very conservative government right now and anti-immigration. But when Ukraine came out, it allowed millions of people across the border and set up emergency shelters on the border. But when Syrians try to get up there, they either push them into another EU country or send them back. Right. And this is kind of, let's be calling what it is. I mean, one type is favorable, one type is not. And I tell people racism's around the world, but it's not always looking at the racism that we see in America. It's different everywhere you look if you know too much about what.
Yeah. Could I ask you a little bit about the governor sent out a press release not too long ago about the $100 million spread across the cities and towns from the new millionaires tax, and Quincy's getting $783,000. So is that free money that the city can use as it sees fit, do you know?
I need to look at the press release. We did put a bunch of money to different trust funds for education and transportation. Obviously, that's
Oh, yeah.
what those taxes for. So I'm trying to remember correctly, but if I remember correctly, we had dedicated 5 different pots or 10 different pots of allocations for millionaires tax. I think one of them is, I think the city's probably, I gotta look at the press release. I think it's education, but
Okay.
I gotta look at that because municipal assistance was actually part of that. Given the fact we only can put it in essentially two buckets. It's
Yeah.
got to be obviously one or the other, but I've not read the press release yet.
All right. We'll wait and see on that. But I think I remember. I think education was one of them. I think transportation infrastructure might have been one as well.
Yeah, we did a lot of that as part of Chapter 70. I'm sorry, Chapter
Yep.
90. We voted on the bond bill already. We'll give a 2-year disbursement to the city of Quincy, which I'm trying to remember the amount, but I think it's about $2 million over 2 years. Again,
That sounds right.
I haven't talked about that since this past April. So
I know.
again, it's hard to remember this stuff. But
Yeah, that
also,
sounds right though. But this is in addition to that, right?
yeah, and then we also have a so-called shovel-ready emergency. I'm doing air quotes, folks. You can't see me. Shovel-ready emergency funding as part of the Chapter 90 for communities that have emergency situations that's shovel-ready to go. That they can get some assistance from that too.
Yeah. Okay. It's it sounds like a whole ton of money, but it took $1 million just to rebuild Adams Street between Furnace Brook Parkway and East Milton Squares. It's not a whole lot of money.
Yeah. No, was it Jim Fassey's reminded me that that's about at the time back in like I want to say it was like 2017, 16. It was like $100,000. I think it was like per mile. So
Wow. Yeah.
it was a lot. It was a lot of money. So
That was then. Yeah.
that was then. You factor in the inflationary costs of probably almost 30% from 7 years ago. Yeah, I mean that's not surprising. However, every dollar helps
Mhm.
to offset the costs, and some of the stuff is taxpayer paid for in a different way that's redistributed to the city.
Right.
Some stuff is bond money that the state picks up on behalf of the city. For example, Chapter 90 money I talked before, as well as school building assistance program. I mentioned that a little earlier. It's state bonds that we are paying back for school building assistance program. So, for example, Central Middle School, is actually mostly the majority of the money is actually state money on that.
Right. Yep, absolutely. Sure. And I know that it's going to be looking for the same thing when they do the Squantum School over too. So we're not done yet.
We're not done yet. That might be a bit of well, no, it's still going to be a substantial reimbursement.
Yep.
Let's be honest. I was going to say maybe it's significantly smaller, but no, that's not going to be it. It's going to be still substantial.
Yeah.
Minimum 40%, minimum. So again, it's Treasurer Goldberg and school building assistant staff do comb these applications very, very. And people may remember Tim Cahill, when he was the treasurer, set the new standard on cost controls. At one time, cities and towns used to get the reimbursement. They had budgeted a bigger number. They figured the reimbursement, covered the cost, and they spent the extra bond money they would have saved, on other things involving the school. And then one of the towns, which are not named, decided that these additions from the original bond budget lets them go back and make more applications, and it got crazy. And Treasurer Cahill, Tim Cahill, put the clamps down on that to create some reasonable cost controls because they think the state's an endless piggy bank.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Otherwise, it's a free for all for sure. Yeah.
It is, and it's a very big, substantial part of the state budget, picking up the school building assistance program.
I bet. Yeah. Seeing as we're talking about money, what's going on with the economy these days?
Well, I mean, those of you who, again, as I said last time, those of you who are looking at their 401ks, 403bs, 437s, whatever your pension program is in private investment, time to do a reevaluation. Definitely call your financial advisor. Right now, the markets are hot, and definitely talk to your financial planner about what the next move is. I highly advise it right now. Talk to a professional. Right now, consumer confidence is, okay. It's
Mm,
not really good. Your mortgage rates are in the 7.5 zone. They came down from the 8.5 zone, but that could change in a heartbeat depending on how things go in terms of overconfidence. And got some geopolitics, as we see in the news, companies are now going to either reconsider or stop transport through the strait, which name is now escaped me. The one between Egypt going past Iran. Why can't I remember these things? But yeah, I mean, when people are shooting missiles at cargo ships, it's going to disrupt trade. When
right.
you lose ability to move cargo by ship through the fastest means possible, it also eats more fuel. It's bad for the environment. So it also adds potential future inflationary costs because time is energy in this case, and fuel
Mhm.
costs. And you always want the shortest route on shipping. Again, environmentally more sensitive, uh, uh, consumer more sensitive, and it just makes sense. So there may be some inflation shots coming, but as y'all also see, the president's polling is very poor, and one of the big areas is polling very poorly is on the economy.
Yep.
Even though unemployment's low, GDP in the US is about 26 trillion. It's almost $5 trillion plus more than China right now. GDP, even though it's projected to slow down next year, is well past 2%. But the price of your wages, all our wages, is not keeping ahead of inflation. And now
Right.
we've reached deflation, and inflation still close to 4%, 3.8, I believe last time, but core inflation at 4%. Your wages growth is now at 0.2 year over year at the same time. So, people feel the pinch,
Hmm.
very economically prosperous on paper, but on a mainstream level, um, your wages are not keeping inflation. Also, your interest rates are not. Your bank interest we talked about is terrible, but
Right.
if money market or CD or treasury bonds, passive incomes that are relatively safe, FDI insured in most cases, or in the case of treasuries backed by the U.S. government. It's either just barely keeping up inflation, and people aren't happy.
Right.
Gas could drop below $3 a gallon, it's still not happy. Because the fact that everyone is feeling the pinch hard right now, and it's going to be hard for people to buy new cars. Still, I know housing prices have gone down nationally, but it's still 7.5% interest rate. When we were enjoying a happy 3.5 2 years ago, right? So
This is it. Everybody's still living in 2019 and it's it's just gone.
yeah, noble politics tells you that when the economy is strong and people are jobs, unemployment is low, it's a sure in for the incumbent president. That may not be the case again, pending some kind of crisis. So, I mean, it's going to be a strong end to the year. I do expect, GDP growth to be abnormally high in 2024. At the same time, I wouldn't expect tax revenues to be all that great because unemployment is going to go up. It's just going to happen because the cost you're facing at home is the same cost all businesses are facing too. And do I think it's going to be a massive recession? Maybe not. It's probably going to be this weird up and down thing where it feels like a recession, but not a recession.
Yeah.
And maybe one of those things where you can't use GDP as your sole gauge because you're supposed to have like two negative GDP quarters in a row to declare recession, but it's
Mhm.
actually not declared by just doing that. You actually have an economic council that determines that. You have to try to project beyond the two quarters. So again, I think 2024 is going to be very roughy first half of the year as everyone's trying to get their footing down. And I expect consumer spending. I won't say it's going to stop, but I think you're going to find again that we saw a lot of early last year. People are going to be much pickier about where they put the money.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading an article this morning. The average new car payment now is $1,000 a month. It's, I mean, you can't sustain that for forever.
No, completely unsustainable. And we live in a high rent environment. So that doesn't help, folks too saving for, 7.5% mortgage for the home, which again, we have a shortage, so unlike other parts of the country, home prices will be stable. There won't be you won't see a massive inflation.
Right, right, right. Can we talk a little bit about this new MBTA overlay district, Jackie, that cities and towns are grappling with? I know Quincy's just passed it there, so they're going to be in compliance. But is it for every city and town?
Yes.
It is? Okay.
As you can tell, kind of like, yeah, it's like the assessments, if you're an MBTA community, and they pay basically a assessment to MBTA for services.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be a comprehensive plan and, communities dealing with MBTA. So, yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know what else to tell you.
Okay. Do you think it's fair?
Yeah, that's actually a good question because usage is really a question, right? So MBTA communities are not just the communities where the MBTA actually is physically in. It's actually adjacent communities where people come into your community, use commuter rail, buses, subway, ferry services. They're not always in your community. So that includes this, like Milton, for example, pays money to the MBTA because coming to Walsall Station and coming off Quincy Station, right? People, Weymouth and the areas around Braintree, Holbrook, all those towns that are directly adjacent, pay an amount. And don't ask me how the formula works. You can ask somebody who works for the MBTA or, it's a little beyond me. But, I mean, you're supposed to kind of, all contribute to the fact that, your residents are part of the MBTA customer service and
Right.
by the communities that use the system.
Yeah, I'm talking about this, the multifamily housing overlay district
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, not assessments. Yeah,
not
smart
assessments.
smart growth.
Smart growth, that's it. TOD, transit-oriented development, is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, we're using a term from Deval Patrick. We're going back in time again. When old is new and when new is old, right?
Right.
Yeah. And the idea, of course, is that you want to put more people near mass transit, reduces, car usage and trying to create affordability for people.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really that simple. It's really about implementation, of a municipal plan. Communities that aren't part of an MBTA community, you have to drive from Milton to Walsall Station, right? So they wouldn't be subject to the same thing in terms of that type of overlay because they don't actually have direct smart growth ability of a walkable public transit. So it's a good thing, but all MBTA, anybody with an MBTA station, that's in their area is going to need to have some form of housing plan as part of DOT initiatives. And I remember correctly, there's some grant monies that go with this stuff.
Yes. Yep.
Whether it can get built, I don't know. Again,
Okay.
we discussed 3 minutes ago about interest rates. So
Yeah. So I know some of the city councilors were griping about, the state's not taking into account the city of Quincy's new housing that's already been developed around T stations, but just it didn't have that district.
yeah, I get it. I mean, you look at places like the Abbey that's being built off Quincy. You look at all the development in Quincy Center. Is it considered? Well, Abbey should be obvious because it's right next to it, but it comes back to affordability, right? And what once was at a time when I was much younger, nobody wanted to live that close to the T.
Mm-hmm.
Noise, foot traffic, inconvenience of dealing with a lot of people in your neighborhood. People didn't want to get that close to the T. Nowadays, the government is promoting people to live as close to possible. The Abbey's example, you can't get any closer to the MBTA on housing for a number of different policy reasons we just talked about.
Right.
So I kind of get it. But I agree with the councilors. They really should have accounted for what's going on currently, because you all know. I mean, everybody that lives in Quincy knows this limited developable land near Quincy T stations. There really is almost no way to do it. I mean, Walsall Station, so residential homes uphill. That leaves you trying to develop the CVS lot. We know that Newcomb Farms is still in conversations about what's going to develop there. You develop the actual Walls Station line. I mean, it's not like you have a lot of choices. And you got nothing at Quincy Adams. I mean, it's all industrial around there. So you already built that out. And then the T controls the old Lowe's lot, so that's not an option. And then, you got Quincy Center, multi-development on apartment buildings, and anything directly adjacent to Quincy to T. Again, Bergen Parkway is all residential homes. You already built several apartments, at President's Place, as well as, right on Hancock Street. And you got the new development in Quincy Center. That leaves you very little developable land outside of the T lane itself. So, no, the council's right. I mean, it doesn't make sense in terms of the bigger picture, because you need some place you can develop. Another dense urban area is going to run across the same problem.
Yep. We can only, I mean, we have the ocean next to us, so we're kind of limited going east.
Well, I mean, there's always a chance to get redistricting into Quincy Bay proper.
A floating community.
Well, I mean, if you represent Ward 7, you really have a problem in Quincy.
That's right.
You get the
the houseboat community.
Yeah, so for joke, when people listening who are not from Quincy, you're not from the city, for some reason you stumble onto this podcast, but there's only 6 wards in Quincy. So if you're representing Ward 7, I have an old friend that likes this joke. Clearly you got special problems as elected official.
Yes, you're a really good fisherman. What's the Chan plan for the holidays?
Not much. I mean, we're gonna have dinner at my house on Christmas Day. I'm in charge of cooking, so starting tomorrow, I got to get to the groceries and start doing prep again. And then it's a quiet New Year. There'll be another massive Zoom meeting. My mom's side of the family's doing it, and they're looking to expand the size of the Zoom call. So a ton of even more small boxes on a Zoom call at a global level. And now we're having issues coordinating the time, because it's a global phone call between Hong Kong, China, Canada, us here in Boston. So, there also some technology challenges I found in the WhatsApp. Some significantly older family members have limited computer access but want to participate. So, yeah, the wheels are already in motion of various family members trying to get, all the family members on my mom's side of the family as much as possible. Also, this could be a 2-hour, I think it was 10 p.m. start in the East Coast. So it's going to be one of those long nights as everyone's trying to figure out how to use their various devices. So that's actually really an exciting part of the night, even though I'm unlikely to involve myself in a lot of the conversation. But it's good to see what people look like. Again, technology today gives you the ability to get caught up on seeing where they are, hear what they got to say, but also actually see them in current time.
I know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, hopefully it'll work out. Maybe you can pre-record a couple if you have to and play them back.
I'm not going back to 2020 and 2021 constantly recording myself for messages, although it may get me out of Dodge.
Can you be able to get some sleep?
Here's my 30-second message for the family. We'll play that. I did more recordings at home on my phone, as you know, during 2020, 2021. Don't want to go back because I'm doing like an hour solid trying to get these messages correct for various video-based celebrations. And just like, yeah, it's like the lighting's wrong, the camera tilted over, and
I know the cat walks by or something. I know.
Yeah, you sneeze in the middle. I mean, it's and then you look at yourself recording and you're like, God, you look terrible.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Yeah, that was a revelation to a lot of people, I think.
And you all know from listening to me, I do stumble my words every so often. I get ahead of myself. So my words sometimes are ahead of what I'm thinking. That happens on those recordings, even for like 30-second greetings.
So now, as I recall, you cooked for Thanksgiving too. So you were the head chef, I guess.
I am the head chef. So, but it's fun. I don't mind doing it. Again, and those who know, I like to call it, the problem is that it's time. Like everyone else, it's time. And you're going to do something fun and fancy, it takes more time.
Yeah.
I can do the one pot quick and dirty and ugly in 30 minutes or less, but
no, save those for weekday meals.
Exactly, midday meals, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're gonna do like a family celebration, you want to do it right. And for example, eggnog was requested it's not too hard, but you got the whole temperature thing going, so there'll be some.
Yeah, you don't want to curdle it.
Exactly, so there'll be some, try to figure out, how to do this properly, on, getting the temperatures right for the eggs and
Yeah.
milk. Yeah, no, again, it's just time, and I'm happy to do it. It's just making time to get it done. And this week's actually a busy week. I got a slate of meetings after this today. I got dinner, a meeting tonight, tomorrow. I'm gonna be in person with Mark. We like to make fun of Mark every so often on the show with you. Maybe I'll do that to you and Mark's show.
That's
But,
okay. I can take it.
so, have that tomorrow, Mark, and then Friday, I'm having lunch with the Taipei Economic Development Office, which, Taipei Economic and Cultural Office, which is, the Taiwanese government. They want to have lunch. So, I'm gonna, head out again on Friday for another business lunch and talk about, what's going on in their part of the world. They have an election coming up. So there's going to be a lot of interesting conversation there, as well as, how to see the geopolitics and, what's going on with them in the state as well. And or get to the Christmas weekend. And so, yeah, as you can hear, I got a few things going on before the holiday, beyond trying to find the various things I need for dinner for the family. And like I said, they're putting in requests. So I actually have to get their stuff.
Specific things, yeah.
Specific things. So I got a bit of shopping trapped in the midst of everything I'm doing. And where was I? I was in Westboro this past Sunday, on the way back from the rainstorm. The Representative Kate Donahue's Democratic State Committee Party, City Committee Party. I met some other colleagues and folks and shared some stories of wisdom. And so, yeah, I mean, we had our in-office official State of Christmas party here. The chairs host around the different offices. That was on Monday. Today's Wednesday. There's another series of chairmen in the House and leadership people hosting parties today as well. So beyond just, I actually have 3 more meetings, I think, after this. But, there's also these, in office expectations, of different offices to host, it doesn't have to be crazy parties, but, host, celebrations, in their party offices. And then, it gives a chance for staff and legislators to roam the building to meet other staffers and legislators as well.
Mhm.
So, that's actually part of the job, because, you got to know who you're working with and what is actually meeting with.
Yep. I am off next week for the holidays, Tacky, so I'll ask you, do you have any New Year's resolutions?
Well, every time I try to make a prediction, I end up wrong. So let's not risk that.
Okay.
I'm in a business. It doesn't happen until it actually happens. And no matter how many times I think I know what's going to happen, it doesn't work out the way I think it will, because my just because it's, what is it? Past performance doesn't guarantee future returns.
Okay. So no resolutions.
No, we try to avoid those. No, obviously, as I kind of joke around earlier, I mean, do want to maintenance stuff this month. I mean, I finally got my physical. Those who try to get doctor's appointments, through HMO. I mean, I finally got the physical set up for January 8th. I know that's too much information, but it's actually also the mayor's day of in the council swearing-in day. So regretfully, I'm not going to make it, because just getting a doctor's appointment is time consuming. But yeah, I got some, dentist, doctor, maintenance done. I got to get an inspection sticker, so forth and so forth, like everybody else. And this is just the slowest period I'm going to get, probably including the first 2 weeks of January before things really ramp up over here. So, not just a holiday thing for me in December. In my case, I like to get all these other so-called maintenance issues out of the way as I dash around, just getting it done. And once we get to late January, I think the speed picks up in the building much faster. Again, this is a weird place. It doesn't move at a steady pace. And making a resolution in a place like this, well, I've been wrong a lot, folks, about many things. So let's not create my own failures.
Okay, all right, fair enough. How do we get a hold of you, Tacky?
617-722-2370. 617-722-2370 is our Phone number, we are still staffed for the holidays, just in case you're wondering, tackey.chan@mahouse.gov is the email. We do have the MAlegislature.gov website, for those who want to track bills and check it out. State Reps of Tacky Chan Facebook page, as well as at Tacky Chan and X. Obviously QATV, and your favorite podcast channel, check it with Joe. And, because it's good local news, we get those, 10-minute less sound bites. And tomorrow, I'll be with Mark Crosby on State View, which we actually broadcasted, actually over the state. That one actually have to look even better for Mark. I'm just telling you.
Oh, sure. You'll put on a suit and tie.
Yeah, I got a chance right now, but I mean, I gotta like fix my hair and be fancy for Mark tomorrow.
Well, maybe I'll see you when you come in. I want to wish you and your family and your staff a very, very healthy, happy holiday season.
Thank you, Joe, you and your family, and obviously everyone at QATV and all of you listening. Please have a happy, safe Christmas and a happy New Year, and but wish you all well.